And now we're joining you this evening here on the 250th anniversary of the Army/parade that took place today in Washington, D.C. A very major and what will go down as a historical event that took place, but it will also be remembered for the No Kings protest that took place nationwide. Now, I know some of the biggest complaints that I've heard from the protesters is, well, I can actually hear them. They're right outside of my office right here.
Perhaps there is disorder and chaos there, but if that's going on, they don't want any help. Just don't give it to them. So that's another kind of substrat on the side that sure they'd support his authority to do so, or wouldn't necessarily challenge it anyway. But then again, they wouldn't necessarily support him doing so. Here we are here today thanks to Zoom.
So yeah, that seems to be.
Yes, it does. What was that again, Jake?
Well, do you hear that outside my door?
Outside your door? Oh gosh, that's all right, pal. That was rough. Uh, I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you what those guys were protesting for, but by the looks of it, they have the makings of the nutritional democracy supporters. You know what that is, don't you?
No, I can't say that I do. Do you want to elaborate on that just a little bit more?
That's cannibalism. And you see, that's just one example,
Yeah.
but this word democracy, it's been, thrown around quite a bit, and you even see it, that's kind of the central point. That's what they end on here in the mission statement. No kings, but what exactly is democracy? Well, it's been defined a number of different ways, and it's really become something of a red herring. It cuts across the lines of media, government, and academia. You could say the unholy trinity of opinion manufacture. All are pleased to call democracy. Supposedly, all republics, constitutional monarchies, democracies are those by definition. That is, democracies by definition. Although a certain strand of American conservatives insist upon a difference between constitutional republics, such as the United States once were, and a democracy. But again, what is democracy? Well, one might define it as majority rule, but since the great majority of countries have were introduced by or imposed by rather judicial or legislative fiat when the great majority of their populations actually did not want them. The definition does not hold water. Indeed, democracy can be defined as whatever those ruling a given country wish it to be. It's the old joke that the United States have a representative democracy. Now, yeah, you take, for example, here the pre-1989 Soviet bloc featured the people's democracy, very favorable sounding, but again, one of those instances where the people weren't actually in favor of it. And the notorious example, this is something that actually happened. The government of Idi Amin defined cannibalism as nutritional democracy. So, or sounds desirable, like something that would benefit the people, but says in reality functions as a smokescreen for or those in power sort of cover for whatever else is going on. This is according to the Tumblr House. What are your thoughts on that, Jake? Jake, you all right, pal? What's going on? Oh boy.
What was that?
I was just asking about your thoughts. On definition of democracy. It looks like you're not doing so hot. To call 911. Do you need a doctor? This can't be good. Jake, are you all right? Jake, oh, are you all right then? Oh no. Come on. Jake, please tell me you're alright. Oh shoot. Oh, well, that stinks. Now, what happened to Jake? Well, I guess that what happens. That's what happens when you have a close brush with this.
Yeah.
I mean, people.
Oh, what was happening?
Yeah. Gonna make it?
Yeah, I think I just need to probably go and get some more.
Hopefully he'll be back soon. Pardon the interruption, folks.
Well, thank you, Isaac, for calling an ambulance after that took place. I was actually only in there for just a little while, a couple hours. They were able to get some treatment. I ended up having a concussion from the protesters that broke in, and but the good news is it's all healed up here, so back to normal, and so that's why we're able to record today this next episode.
Yeah, glad you're all right. That was no bueno. So.
Yeah, let's go ahead and continue with talking about the No Kings protest.
Yeah.
Is there something you got there?
Yeah, so the No Kings protesters say, well, obviously the name implies that they're opposed to, having a king or a monarch, and that's not particularly new, so I didn't think too much of it. I saw those stickers on telephone poles when I was in D.C. Didn't know what they were because I wasn't necessarily watching a lot. I just saw them and they said no kings since 1766. Like, sure, all right, we haven't had a king in the United States, sure, since 1776.
Right.
Officially declared independence. But, what was the purpose of those? I wasn't really sure at that point. I did not know that they were related to these protests. Now you check out, as we did just a little bit ago, their website, nokings.org, which talked about in their mission statement. Essentially, one of the things that they're opposed to is what they say, or what they call politicization of the military, which presumably is what they thought this military parade was, and also the recent deployment of the National Guard in California. They would probably also lump that in with that group. Is it really that not sure, but that seems to be sort of the accusation, or at least what they're implying, is that our president is acting like a king. Is he really? And on another note, they also say in their mission statement that it's their goal to defend democracy. Now, we've heard that word thrown around a lot in recent times, but in a lot of different applications. So it's not abundantly clear what that means. It's used fairly ambiguously, and it is worth noting there is such a thing as weaponized ambiguity. In other words, being intentionally ambiguous as to sort of keep things open for confusion. What do you think about that? Do you think this is that, Jake?
I'm not sure that it is. And
Not necessarily.
I think it's quite a jump.
No, it could be.
To assume.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, what was I saying? Yes. So, the thingamajig.
You know that's actually a word in the dictionary?
Thingamajig is a word in the dictionary, really?
It is, yeah.
Wow.
Learned that on a game show the other day. Just kind of like Jeopardy.
I'll have to keep that in my back pocket if I'm ever on a game show. Heck, if we ever do a game show.
That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, if you'd like to see a GWP game show, let us know if you've got any ideas. You can email those in to us, gwp-international@att.net. Again, that's gwp-international@att.net, or you can just put any of those ideas down in the comments below the video. We'd love to hear what you've got to say. Any ideas would be appreciated.
Yeah, now something else about the No Kings protest is I think that sometimes people are protesting, but maybe they don't even really understand what it is that they're protesting for. Right. Yeah, and I think that could be part of it here.
Presumably there's a lot of that because they do recruiting and they know the base things, and I think oftentimes it's easier for them to wrap their heads around what they're protesting against than what they're protesting for, right?
Yeah.
And I think, it's important, they do have a mission statement, but, I think it's fair to say that there's a good deal of variety in that, I think from what we know, their protest has been mostly, but not entirely peaceful, and so it doesn't even seem that they're on the same page or organized on that front, does it? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's really, you were talking about how they really just know what they're protesting against,
right,
and not necessarily what they're, trying to support.
Right, and it's a lot easier to say that than
say,
we don't like what Trump's doing, but what are you protesting in favor of?
And what would you like to see change? I hear a lot of people who, complain about how they don't really like something,
right,
but then they don't really have a better solution. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if you're going to argue against the main point, like if you don't think that our government, the way that it is 100% perfect, which I'm not claiming that it is, but if that's a statement that you're going to make and you're going to continuously make it over and over again, then what's the better idea?
Right, and just to get back to kind of their name, their central claim, no kings, you shouldn't have a king or monarch or for any reason, and anything resembling that. With our particular experience of the United States with the the English crown and breaking away from that, we've got a particular apprehension, I think it's fair to say, to monarchy of any sort. And they're pretty quick to kind of sneeze at it and dismiss it. So you ask someone, are you a monarchist? Most asked the question today would doubtless contemptuously answer no. Very few in the United States might actually answer in the affirmative, perhaps more than you'd expect, but how well do either really understand what they're denying or assenting to? And just what is monarchy? For that matter, what is republic? Just as our federal union, Hitler's Germany, and North Korea are all called republics, so too are Austria, Hungary, Canada, and Imperial China called monarchies. But in both cases, what a world of difference. About the only thing you can say that most monarchies shall have in common is the hereditary principle in choosing the sovereign. But that is not the case today with either the Holy See, the Sovereign Order of Malta, or the Co-Principality of Andorra, nor for long stretches of history was it true either of the Holy Roman Empire or the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Now, apologies for the little slip up on that, but you get the point. So, there's that, even a little bit of ambiguity on that front, but the one thing that's stated here, and again this is from the Toonblar House, the one thing that's stated that monarchies have in common is the hereditary principle of choosing the sovereign. But for those familiar with different fallacies, the idea of democracy, as we talked about before, it's been thrown around quite a lot, used fairly ambiguously, and it's become something of a red herring, referring to, of course, the red herring fallacy, one named after a fish, but a common one nonetheless. The word democracy, as we talked about, including with the No Kings protesters, but not only with them, it's thrown around a lot, and it varies greatly in application, and it doesn't seem that the same thing is always meant by that. There seems to be some ambiguity there. Dare I say weaponized ambiguity, in other words, intentionally, as to keep the door open. In other words, it sort of means whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that this is the case here. It certainly could be. What do you think?
I think it could be. I mean,
Could be.
sorry, did you hear that sound? Hold on a second.
Wait
I think
a second.
somebody's at the door.
I can't believe this.
Somebody is at
The
the
nerve
door.
to come and interrupt when we've got our recording light on.
Sorry everyone for that interruption.
Yeah.
Well, that package that came in, right?
Yeah, I guess it's good to know about my UPS package from 6 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why it took so long to get here, but I guess there it is now.
Yeah.
So,
I guess if you're gonna mail cheese to yourself, don't use UPS.
yeah, so that's why we didn't bring in a package. We just went ahead and took it right to the dump.
Yeah.
Smelled pretty bad. So now that we're back in here, we can talk about some other current events that took place.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about the military parade back on June 14th. Unfortunately, there was another very tragic event that took place that happened the night before that took place.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about the Minnesota political shootings that took place.
Really?
Yeah, those were deadly. Unfortunately, there was 2 people who died and 2 that were seriously injured from that.
How does this happen?
Well, unfortunately, again, it was a political shooting as well, and so that makes it just all the much worse. You know, we were talking about how there was a lot happening the day of the military parade. Is it possible that this person did it intentionally, knowing that there would be a lot going on and that everybody else would be distracted with the parade and the protests, that they wouldn't notice
Quite
this
possible.
as much?
Quite
I mean,
possible.
obviously people are going to notice. It's going to be all over the news.
Yeah.
But somebody might have thought that they could have gotten away with it a little bit easier.
I mean, I suppose that's worth speculating on, but I think that detail is less significant.
Yes.
You know, you could. It depends on how much credit you want to give this criminal. Was he smart enough to do that, or just I don't know.
Well, and what's also
I mean,
fascinating
it's
and
crazy.
yeah, it's also always fascinating and concerning all at the same time that these people normally that do crazy, absurd things that are just evil acts, normally there's no sign to other people that they're going to do something like this. There's a lot of people
Right. Seems a
that
little
have
bit out
done
of the
similar
blue.
things.
Right,
Yeah.
and somehow these people just insane or something, but manage to fly under the radar.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's a good thing that he wasn't able to get to anybody else because there was a list that was found.
Right, he had a manifesto that stated kind of his intent along with the hit list.
Yes, and there was nearly 70 people from the Minnesota political world. Yes, okay. Nearly 70 people were on that list. So when the police were able to recover his police car, he was no longer able to do anything because all of his weapons were inside of there, and so that potentially saved at least 60 lives.
Well, hang on a second. So this guy, he hijacked a police car and impersonated an officer wearing the uniform and all.
Yes, and so that's the other really crazy thing about this. So this took place in Minneapolis. I'm not sure if everyone heard about this. It was the night of Friday the 13th. We were just talking about that in one of our previous episodes about how sometimes bad things happen.
Hold on, so this took place on Friday the 13th?
Well, it took place the next morning, but Friday night, going into Saturday morning is when it all started.
Friday night, okay.
So this person was wearing a mask that made it look like that they were bald, and then they were inside of a police uniform, and so they showed up, and of course the lawmakers answered the door, and then that is when they were shot.
Okay, so what you're saying, just to clarify a little bit, the fellow in the mask and impersonating the police officer was spotted on Friday the 13th. The shooting took place the following day.
Well, it was Friday night into Saturday morning, but he was not spotted until the shooting took place.
Okay, and what day was that? Was that the following day? Was that Saturday?
Well, it would have been, so it was about 2:30 in the morning, so I guess it would have been on Saturday. But it would have been Friday night into Saturday morning. So,
okay.
Near the time of Friday the 13th,
right.
I guess you could say.
Right.
And, of course, the Israel and Iran strikes, those also took place around Friday the 13th as well. So there was quite a lot that took place during that time.
Right. What all do we know about that?
About the strikes that took place?
Right, Israel and Iran.
Well, we also know that the shooting that took place happened about 24 hours afterwards. So it was all happening at around the same time.
Right, which is crazy that so many of these things are happening in such close time.
Yes, and I think that's what makes it even worse, is that people were distracted with one event, and then it's like, oh, well, then here's another event over here, and so it was really hard for people to keep track of. And this manhunt that took place in Minnesota, again, it was in Minneapolis, around the Brooklyn Park area, everyone was told to go into lockdown after this had started to take place. And the reason for that was because he was in the police uniform. So the way that it was being addressed in Minneapolis is that the police were telling everyone that they were going to be traveling in pairs. And so you were to only open the door if there was 2 police officers at your door, because they were trying to find whoever it was, maybe go house to house, make sure that everybody was fine. And so that's why they said only answer the door if there's 2 police officers. These are some of the current events that we've looked at today. But the next thing that we have coming up is the 4th of July. So
the 4th of July, right?
Yeah, that'll be what our next episode is over. But I guess until then, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for today.
So we'll have a great one for that. Stay tuned for it. It's not one you'll want to miss. So.
As well as our short film coming later this summer.
Absolutely. A lot of great stuff. But that's all for now. Till next time.
I'm Jacob Fulmer.
And I'm Isaac Kedges, host of the Great World Podcast. Signing off until next time. From all of us at the Great World Podcast and GWP International, good night and God bless.